Support for this podcast comes from the law firm of Davis Malm. Whether you're a developer, property owner, manager, or commercial tenant, their real estate attorneys know the lay of the land, not just the law. Learn more at davismalm.com.
WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. WBUR Reporter Arielle Gray, welcome back to The Common.
Thanks for having me again, Daryl.
Yes. So, Ari, you and your colleagues on the WBUR Arts and Culture team have been hard at work because this week, starting today, you're dropping the WBUR Makers Series, the 2023 edition. For those who don't know, introduce us to this project.
Yeah, so if you don't know, The Makers is our annual series highlighting creatives and artists of color who are making waves in the art landscape in Greater Boston and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
These artists really run the gamut of artistic practices, and they're creating artwork or creating spaces for artwork to be made that's just really pertinent and unique and kind of really makes us say, wow, like I haven't seen or I haven't heard that before. So The Makers is a series that is both digital and on air, and it runs throughout the week. So every day you'll get to hear new features on the radio on different artists, and it all culminates in a big celebration on Thursday at WBUR City Space. So you can come and meet the makers and see some of them perform live in person.
When you're putting together this makers list, what are you looking for?
Usually each year we have kind of like a guiding principle.
Always be dope.
Yes, always be dope. I mean, being dope is like a huge part of it, obviously. But we're also looking for artists who are saying something new, who are saying something unique. And so the process is not one that we do just on our own. We actually ask the community for their input. We have this entire form that we send out, and folks from the community are welcomed to input their suggestions and nominate folks that they feel should be on the list. This year, we had 291 submissions from the community, which is a lot. And from that 291, we got down somehow to 10.
Amazing. Now, let's talk more about the fact that, as you mentioned, this project specifically highlights creators of color. Talk to me about that, about the importance of that.
Well, I think in general, especially in the art space, a lot of times creatives of color, artists of color are not highlighted enough, or they may be highlighted in particular instances that may not necessarily be generative to exploring who they are in a wider conversation. And just because, artists of color, they're really pushing the fold in Boston, and we just don't feel like that's covered enough. And so that's part of the reason why we created this series, to make sure that we shine a light on all the work that these artists are doing in the city and beyond.
Love it. So there's 10 makers, but you got 3 to give us a taste of what the entire series has to offer.
I do.
So, Ari, start us off.
Okay, so first off, I want to introduce Rixie, who is an artist that I featured. She's from Boston, though she's moved around a lot in her life, and she does all sorts of art. She's mainly a visual artist, but recently she's been doing a lot of murals around Boston and in other places like Lawrence, and her murals often feature these curvy, voluptuous characters that are part of a world that she calls kukala, which is this alternate, fluorescent reality where things like misogyny are not the rule, they're the exception. And so the women in this world are the builders, the makers. And so she's created this world kind of in response to the one that we're living in, right? And she talked a lot when I interviewed her about how murals and graffiti, about how those were really kind of like her introduction into art, not museums, not galleries. And I thought that was just really interesting. Here's a clip from our interview.
Like cultural murals, I think, were the biggest things of art that I remember as a kid. And as well as like being poor, like we didn't have access to institutional art. So I had to see the art that was in my neighborhoods, which was graph, murals, architecture, playgrounds, and things like that.
Listen, a big, colorful graffiti burner is just as great as anything you'll see in a museum for sure. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
That makes me think too. I think I could say the same. I remember
me too.
being a kid. My parents are from Brooklyn, so one of my earliest memories was driving through Brooklyn and seeing all the graffiti on the walls and all the graffiti on the trains and just being like amazed, just being like, what is this, And yeah, I could totally relate to that. Totally.
Yeah, I identified so strongly with that. So yeah, Rixie is one of the artists featured this year. She's super amazing, and I just can't wait to see what else she does in the future.
Yeah, Rixie did a piece in Alston, the Rita Hester mural. And that's a really powerful piece as well, the story behind that and everything. So yeah, shout out to Rixie for sure.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back.
Did you kill Marlene Johnson?
I think you're one of the first people to have actually asked.
From WBUR and ZSP Media, this is Beyond All Repair, a new podcast about an unsolved murder that will leave you questioning everything.
Somebody should be in jail for murdering my sister.
A woman who's never been believed.
As long as they think I have done this, then they're not looking for who actually did this.
And that's what makes it a cold case.
No, it's a botched case.
And a search for the truth, once and for all.
Wow, it just gets more interesting.
Beyond All Repair. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
Be careful. You're digging in a place that's been very peaceful for a while.
Do it anyway. Dig.
And we are back with more from Arielle Gray. Now, I understand you have a singer-songwriter for us as well.
Yes, Kamaya Diggs. She hails from Western Massachusetts. She has this beautiful, sometimes soft, but very strong voice. And a lot of her recent work has themes that are intertwined with both loss and love. And she's able to just sing in a way that kind of takes you by the throat and makes you speechless a little bit. And our reporter, Amelia Mason, actually is the one who covered her. Here is one of her songs, Follow Me, which is just a beautiful, beautiful track.
I walk away. I never wanted to be someone to keep it together. Keep it together, definitely.
Let's clean the house music.
That you put on a Sunday when you and your mom are
That's
cleaning.
Right. That's right. Get in the zone.
Yeah.
Groove a little bit while you sweeping or something. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, she's great. And she's actually one of the performances. She'll be performing on Thursday night at City Space. So for all the folks who will be there in the room, you'll get to hear her in person.
All right, Kamaya Diggs. Big shout to her.
Yes.
Okay, now understand you have a dancer for us.
Yes, a break dancer. I don't think we've ever had a break dancer before featured in the series, so this is really important. His name is Alex Diaz. He goes by B-Boy El Nino, like the hurricane, because he just sweeps people and competitors off their feet when he performs. And I think one of the coolest things is that breakdancing is actually becoming a category in the Olympics next year. And so he's part of Team... Yeah, I know, right? Long overdue. And he's part of Team USA, and he's hoping to represent the country next year in the breakdancing category. So real important stuff happening.
I love it. That just warms my hip hop soul. I just love it.
Yeah, he's been doing this since he was a kid, really. He is part of the Floor Lords, which is a breakdancing group here in Boston. And, they operate in the greater Boston area. Jacob Garcia is our reporter who covered Alex for this series. And he had a really great conversation getting to know Alex and some of his inspiration behind dancing and how he feels when he dances. Here's a clip from that interview.
I like the high level events where the crowd is sitting on the ground and it feels like Fight Club. I feed off the energy of my opponent. I feed off the energy of the crowd. It kind of just puts me in a zone.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm just incredibly excited for him as he moves on and, represents the country and represents this dance form that throughout history really hasn't been given the respect that it deserves. So it's just an exciting time.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for this whole list.
Yeah.
For real. Will Alex be performing at the City Space event?
He won't be, but he will have some of his group performing on Thursday. Okay. So they will be there taking over the floor, and doing their thing. So if you come on Thursday, you'll be able to see all of that too.
The Floor Lords. What a name. I love that.
I know,
name.
Right?
All right. So these are just three makers of the 10 in this series. We kind of alluded to it already, but Ari, how can folks experience the full project?
You can experience the full project by going to WBUR.org and clicking on the arts and culture section, and you will be able to see the full lineup of artists there. Again, we have digital features and radio features. The radio features will be dropping throughout the week. And there is an event on Thursday at WBUR City Space. So if there are still tickets, I'm not quite sure if they tend to sell out pretty quickly every year. So we can't guarantee that there'll still be tickets. But if there are still tickets, you can go to WBUR City Space page. This event is catered, so there'll be food and also a cash bar on site. So it's going to be a really good time. We've got Kamaya performing. We've got Alex's crew performing. We have a poet named Zija performing, and also another singer, Danny Rivera, performing. So it's quite the lineup, and it's going to be quite the time. You don't want to miss it.
Free admission, catered food. Come on. You got to get in there, folks. You got to get in there. Well, Ari, as always, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for putting us on to these awesome artists. I am so excited to dig into this project. Thank you so very much for coming through to The Common.
Thank you guys for having me. As always, it was a pleasure.
That's WBUR reporter Arielle Gray. And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for listening to The Common. While we have you, we are working on a story about student loans and student loan payments, and we want to hear from you. Send us a voice memo with your name, where you live in the area, and tell us about your experience with student loans and how you're handling the payments. Send that memo to our email, thecommon@wbur.org, or send it to us in a DM on Instagram @WBURTheCommon. For now, I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and I will talk to you tomorrow.